where I'm on now. Me.
You tell me as soon as we're ready.
Could councillors mute themselves?
Joe's not speaking can't hear Joe very well.
Can you not hear me? Check. Is that any better?
Only slightly. You're not as loud as everyone else.
I don't know why.
Welcome, councillors, to this live streamed meeting of the Budget Scrutiny Committee at Bolsover District Council. This is a public meeting being streamed live to YouTube and via the council's website. If for any reason the public can no longer hear or see the meeting over the live stream, we will adjourn the meeting until the connection has been re-established. This meeting is also being recorded. Can the facilitator confirm who is in remote attendance at the meeting?
Thank you, Chair. When I call each member, can you state the ward you're representing and confirm that you can see and hear the meeting clearly? So, Councillor Tom Munro. Councillor Dexter Bullock.
Blackwell Parish.
Councillor Janet Tate.
Shirebrook South.
Councillor Andrew Dresbury.
Southampton East.
Councillor Alan Bailey.
Clown East Ward.
Councillor Graham Parkin. Councillor Maxine Dixon.
I'm Norton Barbara.
Councillor Tricia Clough.
Alt Hucknall Ward, I can see and hear everybody.
Councillor Yvonne Parkin.
I can see and hear everybody. South Normanton West.
Councillor David Dixon.
Yeah, I can see and hear everybody. Marlborough.
Councillor Jem Wilson.
Yeah, Jem Wilson. I can see everybody, thank you.
Councillor Dan Salt.
At Clown West, I can hear everyone.
Councillor Natalie Hoy.
I can confirm I can see and hear everybody. I represent Clown East.
Councillor Rita Turner.
I can see and hear everybody. I represent Eltham, Cresswell and Hobthorpe.
Councillor Tracy Cannon.
Good morning, Tracy Cannon, South Normanton East.
Councillor Tom Kirkham.
I'll Hucknall Ward, I can see and hear everybody.
Councillor Paul Cooper.
Yes, I can hear everybody. And I'm from Bolsover North and Truck Road.
Councillor Jane Bryson.
South Normanton West Ward, and I can see and hear everybody.
And Councillor Anne Clark.
Bolsover East Ward, and I can hear everybody.
Councillor Tom Munro, just confirming I had a battery crisis. I've resolved it. Representing Whitwell Ward, I can hear and see everybody. Good morning all.
And then officers in remote attendance is Joanne Wilson, Scrutiny and Elections Officer. And then from governance, we've got myself, Tom Scott and Amy Bryan. I'll hand back to you now, Chair.
Right, thank you. I will, before we start the meeting, members are reminded of the meeting etiquette that has been circulated to them. All members should have their microphones off during the meeting unless they wish to speak and you have been called on. Members attending remotely, please leave your cameras on during the meeting. Also, for remote members, to request to speak, please use the chat function to speak or raise your hand on the camera. The chair will then call on you to speak during the discussion debate. When a vote is to be taken, this will be by a show of hands for those attending remotely. Please ensure your hand is visible on the camera. If any member is disconnected from the meeting, please try to rejoin as quickly as possible. If you have any technical difficulties, please contact one of the support officers assigned to the meeting in the email to you. If you were about to speak, the meeting will wait a few moments for you to rejoin. I will hand back to you to start the agenda.
Chair, we just need to confirm who's in the chamber. If you could just move over to Rose.
Yeah, Chair, in the
Yes,
chamber
Rose.
we've got Councillor Ray Heffer, Councillor Chris Kane, Councillor Derek Adams, and myself, Councillor Rose Bowler.
Thank you for that.
Apologise. We've also got Councillor Clive Mosby. He sat very quietly.
That's Clive. He's always usually very quiet, bless him. Thank you, Rose, for that. Do members have any other apologies to note? Urgent items. I have not been advised of any urgent items for today's meeting. Item 3, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest members wish to make? Could I ask the facilitator to confirm any members wishing to speak?
There are no hands raised, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Bowler, are there any declarations in the chamber?
There's no declarations, Chair.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you, Chair. Could we just go back to apologies, because I don't think I got a chance to tell you the apologies are, Chair.
Yes, of course you can.
Chair, I've received apologies from Councillor James Watson and Councillor Jim Clifton. Thank you.
Joanne, have you made a note of that?
Yeah, we've got that down, Chair.
Right, thank you. Item 4 we're on now, aren't we?
Yes, Chair.
Yeah. Within the agenda pack, starting on page 4, we have the minutes from the from the last meeting. I would like to move these as a true and accurate record of that meeting.
Councillor Heffer seconding.
Thank you, Ray. Could I ask members to show for those in favour?
Most people voting remotely are indicating, Chair.
Sorry, I'd lost everybody. Thank you.
All in favour in chamber, Chair.
Right, thank you for that. If there are queries over the accuracy, these can be raised and addressed as normal. Refer to Tom to note the amendments if required. Item 5. Budget monitoring report, Q2, April to September. We are now moving on to the budget monitoring report, covering July to September. This is found on page 10 of the agenda pack. We have the head of finance and resources in section 151, officer present, alongside the portfolio holder for finance. Could I ask the chief officer to bring members on the report, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is Q2 budget monitoring report, which goes from April to September 2020. If it's all right with you, further on in the agenda, we've got the revised budgets, which now supersede this. This is an old one now. So if I was going to take any questions if you got any, but then, as I say, go into a lot more detail on the revised budgets.
Yeah, that's fine by me. Does members are in agreement with that?
Chair, Councillor Mosby would like to speak.
Yeah, I'd just like to go along with section 151 officers' recommendation there. This report, as I say, it is now being superseded by another item really on the agenda, item agenda 7, I think. And it didn't really take into account the effects of COVID. So, you know, the later one does. So it's far better if we do it that way. Then you'll have the most up-to-date picture that we've got that I took through to executive on Monday of this week. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
I'll move that course of action, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson, myself, I will second that. Thank you.
Chair, could
Yes.
we just move the recommendations on page 16 of that report to finish that item?
Move the recommendations, Councillor Ray Heffer.
Thank you.
I'll second that, Andrew Josbury.
Lovely. All in favour, can we have a show of hands, please?
All in favour in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you. Joanne, are you got everything there?
I'm not sure if everybody's voted remotely, sir. I don't know, Chair, if one of the facilitators could confirm.
Everyone's indicating in favour, Chair, remotely.
Thank you. Lovely. So we'll now move to item 5 then, please.
Item 6, Chair.
6, sorry, Joanne. Right. That's commences on page 34. Are we having any technical problems, or Joanne?
I believe we're back to Teresa, Chair.
Yeah.
I think it's a PowerPoint, but I'm not sure if it's being streamed through the chamber or the live stream.
That's fine.
Somebody's going to screen share it, I believe.
Yeah, I'm just going to put it on now for you.
Lovely. Sorry, I don't mean to rush everybody.
Thank you. I'll bring the MTFP, the medium-term financial plan, to you after Christmas, and that will include council tax setting figures for 2021-22. This presentation is to remind you how council tax setting and the medium-term financial plan are connected. Can I have the first slide, please? Thank you. We've not yet updated the medium-term financial plan figures this year. We've only done the revised budgets. I'll be bringing those, as I say, in January. Therefore, this table does not contain any effect of COVID that might occur in future years. The latest figures we've got are from the Q2 budget monitoring report. The bottom line of this table is a surplus each year, but this assumes a council tax increase for each year in the efficiencies not yet realised line. The surplus will actually, the surplus will actually be used to reduce the amount of the NNDR Growth Protection Reserve being used in each year. The longer this reserve lasts, the more time we have to earn income from transformation or development directorate schemes. Next slide, please. I've put these dates on here to remind you of the important meetings we've got coming in the next few months. Budget scrutiny on the 27th of January, that's when I'll be bringing the medium-term financial plan and the strategies for the capital programme and investments to you. The budget goes to council, the medium-term financial plan goes to council on the 3rd of February, and then the council tax set-in meeting is the 3rd of March. Next slide. I'm sure you all know that when talking about council tax, we use the band D to compare against other councils or areas. This is the mid-band between A to H. As you can see from the second column, our share of the council tax bill for the last 3 years has been £171.17, £176.29 and £181.29. You can see the percentage increase and then how much each year that cost has been. Each year, the increase per week has been 10 pence. The final column gives the amount of the increase to us. Our council tax strategy is to take the maximum increase allowed, because this is what the government assumes we'll do. To put our part of the Band D bill into context for you, our 2021 share was 10% of the bill. The county council was the biggest share at 74%, and their Band D was £1,349. Second, no, it's not ours. Yes, it is. Yeah, sorry. It's £181.29. That's ours at £10, 10%. And then lastly, it's the fire authorities, which is 4%, and that's only £77.73. That obviously excludes the parish amounts because they're all individual. Next slide, please. This slide shows the amounts that will be realised for different percentages, as when I prepared this slide, we didn't know what the limit the government would say. Yesterday, the Chancellor said 2% was likely to be the council tax referendum limit, so it'll probably be £5 for us. The MTFP, in the MTFP that we've currently got, we've assumed £5 already. And on the slide, you can see that the difference it will make to our general fund in the end column is 111,000 almost. Next slide. These bottom 2 points are why we keep transferring surplus funds to the NNDR Growth Protection Reserve. We've been told big changes are in the pipeline for local government funding for the last 3 or 4 years now, and the pandemic seems to have brought us perhaps another couple of years. But the reason these changes were going to be introduced hasn't gone away. The government needed to find some savings because it was too expensive. This is going to be even more necessary after COVID, as billions have been spent so far, and this was all unplanned expenditure. Our growth protection reserve means we don't have to stop services. It's our comfort blanket, but alone it will not be enough. Next slide, please. The government calculates limits to apply to our business rates and when paying us revenue support grant, and they assume that we'll increase our share of the council tax bill by the maximum amount allowed. This slide shows the amounts that the government will be assuming we've made by 22-23 by increasing each year at the maximum amount. That slide also says again that we don't know about the referendum limits, but as I said before, it's likely to be 2% and £5. Next slide. Oh yeah, sorry. You can hopefully see from this table how an increase in 21-22 on the top line means we get that amount in every year after, because it gets added to the base, and by 24-25 we would generate almost £500,000. Next slide, please. If we update the first slide showing the financial position on the assumption that the 21-22 council tax is set at 2.76%, which is the £5 for us, you can see that this table hardly changes because we've already assumed that we'll set it at the maximum when we've prepared the current MTFP.
.72.8 rise or a £5 one, and the £5 one has always given us that little bit extra to put into the fund so we can keep on delivering our services everywhere. Again, government does make the assumption that we'll obviously go for the highest amount that we can, and anything we get from government after that is based really on the fact that they'd expect us to take the higher amount, which would be £5 in it. We have over the years put some monies into this NNDR Growth Protection Reserve, and that's the one where we're sort of pulling monies out to put into the budget so that we helps to balance it up. And as Teresa says, it don't do everything, but it gives us that bit of a cushion, a bit of a leeway, and a bit of a smooth transition into things, so we're not suddenly having to react to situations that come along. But there are other things that we do need to be doing, and we do need, in line with the next report, really, we do need to be prudent on the way that we do spend our monies and our reserves, because as probably people get fed up hearing me saying, you know, we can only spend reserves once, and once they've gone, they've gone. And once we've got no reserves, then, you know, we are in a bit of trouble. But same say, as regards just the council tax in all, you know, it would be I advise people to follow the policy, and if it doesn't alter, I think that would be £5 on a Band E property for the forthcoming financial year. So thanks for that, Chair.
Thank you. Is anybody else wanting to come in, Joanne?
Nobody in chamber.
Thank you, Rose.
Can't see anyone indicating remotely, Chair.
Right, thank you. So thank you, Clive, for that update. And are we moving on to the revised budgets now?
We just need to move that we note the options that have been presented, Chair.
Of course we do.
Move the report, Councillor Heffer.
Right, thank you, Councillor Effer. Have we got a seconder?
I'll second it. Councillor Munro.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. All in favour, could we have a show of hands, please?
That's everyone indicating remotely, Chair.
Everyone agrees in the chamber, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Rose. Joanne?
That's that item, Chair. So we're just moving on to item 7.
Right, which commence on page 43. Joanne, who's bringing us in on this one, Joanne?
It's Teresa again, Chair.
Right, I'm not rushing you, Teresa. Ready when you are.
Thank you, Chair. We started the revised budget process earlier this year to make sure we got a good understanding of how COVID was affecting our financial position. First slide, thank you. Starting with General Fund. In February, the budget for 2021 was approved by Council, and we reported that we would have an estimated shortfall of 290,000. The current budget is the position we reported at Q2, and the third column, 79,000 on the table, is where we think we'll be at the 31st of March 2021. I'll break this movement down over the next few slides. Savings made between February 2020 report and the Q2 monitoring report were that the council tax increase agreed in March 20 meant we were 111,000 better off straight away. We went through the salary budgets at the end of June, and through maternity leave, vacant posts not filled, and restructuring changes, we were able to remove 169,000 from the budgets. There were also some small savings that we found too. Then we started the revised budget process in earnest. Before this stage, we'd not included anything for the effect of COVID, which I'll talk about in more detail shortly. When we've updated our calculations for debt charges and investment interest, the rates we have to use are not in our favour. We've done an investment in November where we're going to earn just 0.1%. The financial effect of poor rates is a cost to us of 136,000. We've again gone through the salary budgets and can remove 246,000, again due to maternity leave and vacant posts we're not going to fill this year. I've also reduced the saving we usually get from being in the business rates pool by 136,000 because I don't think realistically that we can rely on it being there. If it does materialise, we'll put it in the NNDR Growth Protection Reserve. The miscellaneous savings are net. We had increases on the cost of external audit of £23,000 due to needing more assurance on our pension and asset figures because of the pandemic. We also had an increase in the cost of 134,000 for changes to the Strategic Alliance joint working arrangements. This will include the initial increase in environmental health and the reduction in income from staff who aren't now shared. But the cost of benefits payable has reduced by 99,000, and we've also managed to find 102,000 in small reductions across all departments. The transfer to reserves is a net savings from the revised budget process being put into the NNDR reserve, ready for future changes to government funding. This table was the position before we entered the second lockdown. It will have changed now. We've already received a tranche 4 payment of grant, which I'll go into detail about on the next slide. Basically, at the moment, the grants and compensation payments we're going to receive are still meaning on the face of it, we are not doing too badly financially from COVID in 2021. Where we've not been able to claim loss of income on such as industrial unit rents, I've covered the loss with the expenditure grant. Our collection fund figures on council tax and business rates are down, but hopefully this is temporary and the government has put a scheme in place to allow us to carry collection fund losses over the next 3 years, so our share won't hit the general fund next year. The payment we've received from the government for tranche 4 is 448,000 to cover our expenditure. We've had a number of enquiries from parish councils who, as I'm sure you are aware, cannot claim any grants or compensation for their losses from the government. Government advice is for them to approach us. Therefore, to provide them with some financial assistance, I've split the tranche 4 grant we've received based on the amount each parish precepts on us, and we'll pay the amounts on the table over to them. This is a perfectly acceptable expense for us to pay out of the grant, and when they're not the only authority to do it. Executive approved this on Monday when I gave the presentation, and we'll be emailing a letter to the parish clerks and making the payments of the grant, hopefully by the end of tomorrow. Onto the HRA. There wasn't a lot of movement between the original and Q2 budget, which is the first and second columns. Expenditure to be funded by reserves was approved during February to September, but there was no change to the surplus at the bottom. There hasn't been a lot of change to the surplus after we revised the budgets, but there are some ups and downs that net off to the £11,000 reduction. The biggest variance is the reduction in the dwelling rents. The number of voids is higher than we estimated due to a combination of keeping properties void deliberately because a capital scheme is planned, the suspension of lettings in the early months of the pandemic, and for 4 weeks while the new IT system went live. This is mitigated by a reduction in salaries for vacant posts of £76,000, the amount spent with Travis Perkins being reduced due to lockdown, a reduction in utility budgets due to the capital scheme Safe and Warm, and a reduction in computer software costs. Extra expenditure has been included of £51,000 to pay disturbance allowance for Tibshelf flats due to them being demolished. As the slide says, we've looked at the capital programme, and where a scheme is not likely to be spent in 2021, we've moved the expenditure and finance into next year. A breakdown of the capital programme is shown at Appendix 4 to the report if you want to see the detail. We're in talks currently with MHCLG about the one-for-one capital receipts that should have been used for financing the capital programme this year, or they needed to be repaid. They agreed to extend the deadline to December due to the pandemic, and we've been updating them ever since. That deadline is hopefully now going to be extended to March. Reserves and balances. Both the general fund and HRA balance are being used this year and the next two to fund the increase in pension fund costs we put on one side from 1920, and that's why they're both more than the normal £2 million. A number of schemes have been financed by the transformation reserve during the year with the intention of generating income or reducing costs. The increase in the NNDR growth protection reserve since the original budget is the surplus from 1920. This will be a big help when the government funding reductions eventually kick in. In summary, COVID expenditure and the loss in fees and charges income is covered by the grant we've received or the income compensation scheme. The indirect effect, such as reduction in investment income and increase in debt charges, is a problem though, as is the effect on our business rate and council tax income. Once the furlough and similar government support end, we may end up with empty industrial units and therefore lower rents. In light of this, any underspends will be transferred to reserves to help in future years for both the HRA and general fund. For this reason, I have no hesitation in saying our level of reserves is adequate to fund potential risks we face. A further positive note to end on is that again we've managed to fund the capital programme without incurring any borrowing, which saves us costs in MRP. Stage, but we'll be bringing the MTFP in January, which could look quite different. We're unsure how long the government will continue to pay us compensation for the loss of our income, although yesterday the Chancellor said it would be looked at every 3 months from June 2021, so that gives us a bit of comfort, to be honest. It will probably take a while to fully recover from COVID, and our income may need supporting from reserves for possibly 6 months. The spending review, excuse me, the spending review was yesterday, and we're waiting for the detail to come, which will probably be due in December. Initially, the rollover of the new homes bonus, revenue support grant and business rates look like good news for us, but the devil's often in the detail, so we'll let you know for sure the effects in January. If anybody's got any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Chair, can I bring Councillor Clive Mosby in, please?
Yes, certainly. Clive, would you like to come on, please?
Thanks, Chair, and thanks, Teresa, for that presentation. I hope it's helped members to understand perhaps where we are with these things and try and make it a bit simpler, because I know finance can be a bit of a sort of a minefield for stuff. But I just really, I suppose, we'll do a bit of a summary of it all, as to where we are from my perspective as well. Obviously, these budgets are now reflecting some of the costs that we've incurred through COVID in it all. And we can see really that in some cases, general fund account really has the costs have increased in there within it all. We are losing money, from the business rates pool, which is a pool of all the different councils in Derbyshire, which we always benefited from. We got more out of it, but that does seem to be down. We're obviously losing fees and charges from such things as the leisure complex and stuff here. As we stated, the level of investment interest income is less favourable than it was. So there again, we've lost money on that. So really, if we had gone through the Q2 report earlier, you would have seen that this is probably a little bit less favourable than we were stating at that time, purely and simply because I suppose really we didn't take into account the COVID effects in it all. As a revenue account is a bit of a worry in it all because of the way that voids and letters are going on, and it is lower than we were anticipating. But hopefully that now we're back into this situation, and hopefully coming out of lockdown next Wednesday or Thursday, we can start and get more of those done in it all. So that does need to be done. As we said, we've pulled a certain amount of money out from 2.38 million, 2.38 million out of the capital programme, because we're not going to get it done this year. So it's pulled out and carries forward into next year, which is not really a problem. But we don't want to lose that 1-for-1 money. And I know this is about the third or fourth time, that we've gone back to government to try and extend the deadline so that we don't have to pay it back. So really, I suppose, in conclusion, things are getting a little bit worse than we probably thought earlier on this year. We've got to be, as I said earlier, prudent on our spending and on our reserves that we've got at the end of the day. And so we've got to keep an eye on that. We've got to sort of challenge and wherever we can on these things to ensure that what we're doing is good to get us where we need to be. Coupled with, as I said earlier, loss of income, we're being hit basically on two fronts. We've got reduced income, and we're probably incurring, in some areas certainly anyway, some increased costs. The transformation pot, the transformation fund, which we would put money in there to, as Teresa outlined, to try and save money or produce income. That pot were about 6 million 18 months ago, I think, something of that nature. And, we're down to something like 1.5 million now. So, we need to be sure that that money is used to do what it's supposed to, what it says on the tin, and that's generate income or reduce costs whilst not affecting services in it all. The one good bit or ray of hope in there is for parish councillors, and we decided from this 0.448 million COVID money that the government gave us, the best way forward, and as Teresa said, we do know parish councils had been struggling in some areas, was to then split it up on that. And there is a table, I think it's on page 49 of the report or the presentation you've got today, which outlines the monies that each of the parish councils will be receiving, hopefully, as I say, by the end of this this week by tomorrow, coupled with the letter explaining, the needs to it all. It's just to do it. Chancellor did announce that public sector pay freeze in certain areas on yesterday, on Wednesday, and that. We don't quite know where these things are going to go, and when we look through the detail of that, we'll probably have more about it. But we're not in a bad place, but we're in a worse place than we were when we were looking at Q2 stuff within it all. So again, I do urge caution. I do urge that we just watch what we're doing and make sure that whatever we spend to save, basically, at the end of the day, in one way or another. And thanks again for Teresa for reporting. Thanks for the committee for letting us come in and put this to you. Happy to take any questions together with Teresa if there is any from members. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Joanna, is anybody indicating that they want to come in?
Chair, there's Councillor Janet Tate, Councillor Tricia Clough, Councillor David Dixon.
Right. Janet Tate, would you like to come in first, please?
Yeah, I'd like to thank Teresa and Clive for the explanation. It really does bring home exactly where we sit, and I think so far, they're doing a good job on the council's behalf. I'd just like to ask, because I've been approached by one or two businesses in my ward about the extra financial help for businesses that have had to close during this second lockdown, and I just wondered where we were at giving these businesses some information as to when, if, or how much they could claim. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tate. At the moment, we've got one business grant scheme open, and that is for businesses that have had to close, been forced to close because we're in a lockdown. I think the easiest thing perhaps is to steer people to the website, because that's got the claim forms on and the guidance specific to our scheme, but also probably links to the government guidance. Then there are two further grant schemes that have not yet started, but they're discretionary grant schemes. I think that there is some guidance on the website for those, but as I say, the schemes aren't open yet, so I don't think they can't fill in an application form yet. But that's where all the information will be.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that, Teresa.
Can I just bring Councillor Mosby in, please, Chair?
Yes, certainly.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I mean, Trinos have been doing a big, good bit of work up there, trying to get these grants out to these businesses that have had to close again through COVID restrictions within it all. And I know they're working really hard to get these grants out as quick as we possibly can. Again, on Monday, on item 11 on the executive agenda, there was the discretionary grant fund and additional restrictions grant monies that were approved at the time, and this is the new one again that's coming out in there. So that's two sort of schemes going. But I think equally as important is, as you're aware, if you have to take time off of work because you've been exposed to COVID, for the 14 days, there is a £500, I think it's £500 anyway, that can be given to offset the costs of not being able to go to work, really. So, it's not financially detrimental to you by keeping away from people for those 14 days, not spreading COVID. And again, we've been working, or staff's been working extremely hard upstairs to ensure that when we've had that claim come in, that we've got that money paid out to those individuals as quickly as we possibly can. There is other little bits as well they've been doing, which is sort of adds to your question, Janet, and probably gives a bit of substance to it at the end of the day. And that's the things like on collections, we've been trying. We did no collections at all really between March of lockdown and the end of June of this year. And then from sort of 1st of July up to I think about 5th of November, we've took a softly approach and sent letters and phoned people to ensure that they've got that contact, and we've got that contact, and we can try and help people and take a bit of worry or concern off them at this time. Sadly, again, we're locked down. Again, we've had to revert back to the non-collection on it all. So there's lots of things going off out there. Perhaps we don't shout about stuff, but I hope that's perhaps get a bit of a roundup as not only for businesses but for individuals, where we are. And it's obviously in our interest to ensure that businesses don't fold, because we do need employment when we come out of this pandemic, whenever that might be. We do need jobs there for people to be able to spend the wages on local economy of it all. And if we start to lose one of those elements, then we've got a bigger problem than we've got at this present time. So it all links together. And any time, both, I'm sure Teresa would agree, both myself and her are available to any member to try and explain anything we've got or direct you as best we can in it. Again, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Clive, for that. Who have we got next, Joanne? Is it David Dixon?
You got Tricia Clough and then Councillor Dixon.
Right. Tricia, would you like to come in first, please?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to Teresa and Clive for that. My question relates to Section 106 monies. I know in the first report, which was now defunct, it said that a meeting was going to take place in October to November. Just wondering whether or not the Section 106 meeting's taken place, and can we give reassurance to people that the monies will not be lost, because it did say that the money's not spent by January, it could be lost. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Clough. Yes, the Section 106 meeting took place virtually, and officers all know when the deadlines are, and they're all working to make sure that the money doesn't get lost. I think there's only a small amount to be spent by January, and they're comfortable that it will be spent, so it won't have to be repaid.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dixon now.
Right. Councillor Dixon, would you like to come in?
Yeah, hello. The question is whether there's any caveats attached to the monies that are going to be paid to the parish councils.
It's me. Can I take this one, Chair? Yeah.
Yes, certainly, Clive. Yes,
Thank
please.
you. No, basically all we're saying is, just spend it on sort of things to keep the parish council going in it all, during the COVID breakdown, which is what the government gave us the money for in the first place. We're merely just sending this letter along there to qualify that at the end of the day. So, we're just hoping that it'll, you'll be able to carry out your duties as parish councils. That supplements, obviously, district and indeed county councils at the end of the day. And make it better. So really, I suppose, you can't go on a foreign cruise on it maybe at the end of the day sort of thing, but you know what I mean, it's to make sure that you maintain services during this COVID time, and maybe not have to praise your precept as much, because it might just supplement your finances at that particular time. But there is some good monies coming out there. I know from my own parish council, and that is about 19,000. So it is a good sort of chunk of money. And since they read that table on page 49 of your presentation today, and you'll see what your parish council will be getting dropping through the door either tomorrow or early doors next week in it all. So no caveats particularly.
Thank you, Clive, for that.
Chair,
Yeah.
Councillor Maxine Dixon and then Councillor Tom Munro.
Right, thank you. Maxine, would you like to come in, please?
Thank you. It was just for Clive, really. He mentioned that £500 would be available for people having to take 2 weeks off work due to COVID. Is that for individuals, or any individuals, or self-employed individuals, or just people that do not get paid for time off for sickness?
If that's okay, I'll just let Teresa take that one on board, because she's got more knowledge of it. I'll just take the headline figure in it all. Thank you.
Yeah, yes, fine. Come in, Teresa, when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. It's test and trace, the money that you can get, but you have to be, it has to be done through the NHS. The NHS have to tell you that you must test and you must self-isolate, and they will give you a number. And if you haven't got that number, then you can't get the £500. It's quite strict.
Okay, then. Thank you.
But it's for individuals.
Thank you.
It's Councillor Munro now, Chair.
Yeah. Councillor Munro, would you like to come in, please?
Thank you, Councillor Munro, Whitwell Ward. Can I first of all just respond to Councillor Tricia Clough's issue in respect of
Yes.
S106 monies. There was a comprehensive report given to the last meeting of the planning committee, and it was made quite clear at that stage by the head of planning, who gave the report on behalf of the officer who compiled it, that all we do expect now virtually every single penny of the outstanding S106 monies to be spent by the 4-year deadline. I fully appreciate her question, but I hope that gives us some assurance. So that's the first one. In respect of what parish councils can actually spend this money on, I'm pleased to hear there are absolutely no restrictions. I did sit in on the executive meeting on Monday, and I certainly was given the impression that part of the reason for this grant was the government recognising and asking district councils who are going to receive the grant on their behalf and then distribute it to recognise the loss of income from such things as community facilities like village halls, who obviously have had to close and not been able to run functions due to COVID restrictions. So certainly we as a parish council will be focusing on that. And finally, if I may, Chair, I have a question which I suppose goes back really to the portfolio holder, Clive, and that is, I note with interest that we are making a significant saving, he said in inverted commas, at the moment by not appointing staff where vacancies arise. What assurances can the portfolio holder for finance give all councillors that as a result of those savings, there has not been a reduction in the level of service that we are offering all of the residents of Bolsover district who require our services? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Councillor,
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Munro, if I could answer that in part, please. The savings are a mixture of savings from maternity cover, so people that are on maternity leave, and where perhaps in the budget we were going to have a new post, but we've not had a new post. So it's not that we're not filling all, it's not that we're leaving posts vacant, it's that perhaps we're going to put one in and then we've decided not to. I didn't mean to confuse anyone.
Fine. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
I'll just come in.
Did you? Yeah, that's fine. Clive, come in.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm not going to sort of answer a question because obviously I'm not too sure I'm answering it all. But all I must say really is that we always have recruitment drag on posts anyway. In normal times, quite often there could be 3 months before somebody comes in, and obviously that's there. So I suppose as Teresa says, nothing really much is altered from where we would be normally in it. Or it's just that in some instances we've done. Well, we've certainly done one reorganisation because we've got the growth directorate and everything now. We're looking at other areas where services are being looked at in it all, and there's going to be different things going off there. But as far as I'm aware, there's not been any impact on service, Tom. It's just a general sort of routine, SMC drag that we get on recruitment in it all. And I think even in some cases whereby we decided there might not be a post, that post could become disestablished at the end of the day, so it's not there anyway. It's still a saving because obviously the cost of the service is not as much. But as far as I'm aware, no problems with any of it so far, Tom.
Thank you for that, Clive.
If there's no other questions, Chair, Councillor Ray Heffer would like to move the report, please.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's me again.
Sorry, Tom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Ray.
Yeah, come on.
First of all, can I thank Clive and Teresa for their reassurances? They're important. Can I now, I'm sorry to be a burden, but the point is to scrutinise. So can we just go back to the HRA budget? I note with interest that we've not spent, obviously, for obvious reasons, we're only doing urgent repairs, and therefore inevitably we are not purchasing as much in the way of materials from our provider, our supplier, who's actually cited by name in the report. What will be put in place? And I suppose this question is to Teresa. What will be put in place, given that And hopefully 6 months, in 6 months' time, the situation will be much better. We'll be hopefully past the worst of COVID. At that stage, what will be put in place finance-wise to enable the work that will then be fairly urgently need doing from many of our council tenants for the increase then that will be required in terms of purchasing materials from our suppliers. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. The money, although the money has been, although the budget has been reduced because we didn't need to spend it in the first 6 months or whatever, that money has only been put in the HRA reserve. So next year, when we do need to spend, if we do need to spend more, it can just come straight back out again. So it's not been taken out and removed forever and lost. It's there to be used again.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Councillor Effer, would you like to come in now, please?
I would just say if there are no more questions, Chair, I'd like to move the report.
I'll second that. Councillor Josbury.
Josbury, right. Just before we take a vote, Joanne, did anybody else indicate they wanted to speak?
Can't see any more hands, Chair.
Right. So, Councillor Ray Heffer's moved it and Councillor Josberg seconded it. Could I ask for a vote if all in favour, please?
One's indicating remotely, Chair.
Everyone approves in the chamber, Chair.
Thank you. And so there's anybody against? Any abstentions? No, so thank you for that.
Chair, could I just come in now? Teresa and I are going to be leaving meeting if that's okay with you, because obviously this is your work plan and other bits that perhaps we're not involved in. So if you're happy, we'd like to leave the meeting, please.
Yes, I'd like to thank you both again for your full updates and the information and all the questions that you've answered. And yes, if you'd like to leave, you're very welcome to and carry on. Thank you. Joanne, can I bring you in now? And we'll be on item 8 on page 64. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
So as Councillor Wilson said, page 64, you'll find the work programme for committee for this year. Due to the lockdown and the impact on the committee meeting schedule, we've got less meetings this year. So we've got one more meeting remaining, which is highlighted within the appendix. That will take place on the 27th of January. As the Chief Officer's already alluded, we'll be having the medium-term financial plan revision at that point, as well as the revisions to the main strategies, treasury management strategy, capital strategy, and the corporate investment strategy. We're also planning on having a treasury management briefing at that meeting with Arlene Close as well. And then that will conclude the work programme for this year, Chair. I don't know if members have any particular questions at this stage.
Does anybody wish to ask any questions to the officer?
No questions in chamber, Chair.
Thank you, Rose. Tom, did you want to come in?
No, if there are no questions, it gives me great pleasure to move the recommendations on page 65 at 6.1.
Thank you.
Second that, Chair, Councillor Kane.
Thank you, both of you. Can I have a show of hands, please, for all in favour?
All in favour in chamber, Chair.
All looks to be in favour remotely, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, Joanne, is there anything you wish to comment on?
No, that's it, Chair. There'll be a couple of new items likely on next year's work programme once we can start to develop that, and we'll hope to fit in some more training for councillors as well at some point as well. But it's just to move to item 9 now, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. So item 9 is the update from the scrutiny chairs. Rose, would you like to come in first? Customer service and transformation?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Customer Service and Transformation Scrutiny. Since the committee last met, the Customer Service and Transformation Scrutiny Committee have held 3 public meetings and 3 informal meetings. Members have considered 2 separate complaints reports, the October 19th to March 20 report and the annual complaints report, and the Ombudsman's annual letter. We've received an update on the redevelopment of the Council's website to comply with new accessibility regulations and completed a spotlight review looking at the impact of COVID-19 on customer services and contact centres. Members have just commenced a review of IT services and support and intend to look at procurement services later in the municipal year. Post-scrutiny monitoring against 2 past reviews is nearing completion. The final report in relation to the operational review of Standards Committee was considered by the committee in October, with all recommendations bar 1 complete. Once COVID restrictions ease, it is hoped that the Parish Council liaison meetings will recommence with the last recommendation to be completed. The final report in relation to the review of the delivery of environmental health and licensing has 2 recommendations outstanding and will be considered at the December meeting. Further work is taking place in relation to both of the reviews of the committee from 2019-20 on review of reletting of council properties and the review of New Bolsover due to the impact of COVID-19 on completion of works on site. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Rose, for that update. Can I ask Councillor Downs if he'd come in, please, for the healthy, safe, clean and green community scrutiny?
Yeah, we don't have Councillor Downs present today. I'm wondering if either yourself or Rose would be able to read his update on his behalf, or I can.
Do you want me to read it, Chair?
Yes,
you're on that committee, aren't you, Councillor Bowler?
Yeah, that'd be lovely, Councillor Bowler. Thank you.
Since the lockdown commenced, the committee have held 2 public stream meetings and 2 informal meetings via Zoom. Members have considered the Q1 Ambitions Performance Report, received a report in relation to our Spotlight review looking on the impact of COVID-19 on waste collection services, and completed a Spotlight review looking at the impact of COVID-19 on leisure services. This involved a presentation from the Leisure Operations Manager based on an initial brief from members and a question and answer. Members have also reviewed the proposed consultation draft of the BDC Sex Establishment Policy and Procedure prior to submission to Licensing Committee. As part of our work for 2020-21, we have expanded our usual annual review of health and wellbeing to consider the impact of COVID-19 and will be questioned officers from HR and health and safety. Our review from 2019-20 in relation to children in care and care leavers is still progressing, but has been affected by the pandemic and the need to focus on the more immediate impact of COVID-19. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor Bowler. It's my turn now. Report from the gross scrutiny. The committee have now met 4 times formally under the new arrangements for the coronavirus regulations, with our next meeting planned for December. We have also held 3 informal meetings. We have considered the Question 1 Ambitions Performance Report, the Growth Strategy Update for Q3 and Q4 2019-20, and the Growth PIs for the same period. We have now considered the consultation draft of the empty property strategy, and at our December meeting we will be looking at the consultation draft of the housing strategy. We have also had further discussions of the director's response to the reconsideration of the decision, sale of land at Gladwell, and we have now drawn work in relation to the calling to the close. At the last meeting, members considered a report from the partnership team on the refresh of the Sustainable Community Strategy, and also assessed the achievements of the partnership to date, and the work of the partnership in response of COVID-19. The committee has recently agreed a new review scope to look at the council's relationship with Robert Woodhead Limited. The first evidence gathering session has taken place examining the Bolsover Homes contract. Our mini review looking at the private rented sector and selective licensing is now not moving ahead due to the recent information gathered as part of the development of the empty property strategy. There is no further impact scrutiny could have at this time. And that's the end of my report. Thank you. Joanne?
That's the end of the agenda, Chair. So there's just the closing element on page 9 of your script.
Chair, would you like me to close the meeting?
Rose, you can't find it. Would that all be all right?
Yeah.
I think I've got it now.
Have you got it?
Yeah. No, I haven't, Rose, please.
Right, I'll do it. Can I
Thank you
thank
all.
members and officers for their attendance today? That now concludes the business of the meeting, and I shall close the meeting and ask for the live stream to be ended. To the public with us on YouTube, thank you for watching.
Thank you.